Okay, so here we have the nasal plate model, and I'm just going to go over a lot of the bones that are shown on this model. So first we have our maxilla, which has the incisive fossa, and our palatine bone. And the hard palate is made up of the maxilla and the palatine bone. Then if we look on this side, we can also see that the maxilla with the incisive fossa and the palatine bone with the greater palatine foramen here. Then, if we move superiorly, we have the vomer, which is part of that nasal septum, and the perpendicular plate of the ethmoid, and the crista galli, and the frontal sinus of the frontal bone, the sella turcica of the sphenoid bone, with the sphenoid sinus. And here we have cartilage. Here we have the hyaline cartilage, and at the end we have elastic cartilage. Additionally, we can see part of the pterygoid process here. Then over here we have our nasal concha, superior, middle, and inferior. The superior and middle nasal concha are part of the ethmoid bone, versus the inferior nasal concha is its own bone. And then within this middle nasal concha, and then in here we have our ethmoid sinuses. Then here we just have the nasal plate model turned on its side, and here we can see the nasal bone and then the lacrimal canal. Then we're just going to go through this coronal cut model. So here we have part of the mandible with its alveolar process. Then here we have our maxillary sinuses. And then here's part of our nasal cavity. We have our inferior nasal concha, which is its own bone, part of the vomer and the perpendicular plate of the ethmoid bone. The middle nasal concha is all of this, and the superior nasal concha, which are also part of the ethmoid bone. And then here we have our ethmoid sinuses within that middle nasal concha. And then here we have our frontal sinus within our frontal bone. And then over here, we can see the bodies of the vertebrae and the spinous processes. Here's the frontal sinus of the frontal bone, the crista galli of the ethmoid bone, the superior nasal concha of the ethmoid bone, the middle nasal concha of the ethmoid bone, and the inferior nasal concha, which is its own bone. Additionally, we have the incisive fossa of the maxilla, and we have the maxilla and the palatine bone, which make up that hard palate. And then here we have the sella turcica and the sphenoid sinus. Then we have that vertebral body and the spinous process. And here we have the crista galli. I missed it the first time, but there she is.